I'm 2 stems away from being finished here, which is pretty typical. Ayup Woodlanders on this woodlog were felling even more trees. So on the last woodlog, you notice we finished off our ash clear fell on the corner, which is our eastern corner. Now we find ourselves on the western corner because I want to try a little experiment, kind of, with some thinning work. These now have become right for thinning because they've been planted 25 years ago and never been thinned. Most of them are Corsican pine. Some of them are Scots pine. They're called Corsican, the black pine, and that's Pinus nigra, they call it. The way I remember that is because the bark is often very dark and blackish, whereas Scots pine, if you see through there, starts after about 15 to 20 years, starts to go very much more orange, and the timber inside is nicer as well. So that's Scots pine there, I believe, whereas I think this one here is Corsican. And it was all meant to be Corsican pine, but I just don't think the nurseries were that good at sorting out what was Corsican and what was Scots pine. So there you go. Didn't want to just thin every third tree, which is fairly traditional way. I've done experiments with other kinds of, not necessarily thinning, but I call it fatting, where you take out some of the larger stems and leave some of the smaller stems to go on, simply because I don't necessarily want massive trees in this woodland. It's nice to have some, but I don't want it all like that. If I can create a mini clearing of about between 10 and 12 trees, that'll create kind of like a clearing or an opening in the canopy that's fairly big. And if I can fill the gaps with a few other hazels, my goal is to create these sort of mini coops that will tie up eventually once I've done thinning work elsewhere. I'm just going to try this method for a few years to see whether I can manage it well and whether it works well for the woodland and the trees and all the rest of it. So we'll get this one snedded, cross-cut, and then we'll have a few more of these out. Hopefully that explains it without too much of me waffling on about it. I think that's it for felling in this little bit. Now, again, another clean-up operation. It's just trying to decide what order to do it in, and I've not made my mind up yet. I've run out of fuel. I've got a couple of little spindly things up in this area I just want to nip out, and not for any particular timber reason, simply because when I'm on the tractor, like this for instance, I nipped that little one out there that was dead. Now ordinarily you'd want to try and leave dead trees in because it adds to the whole habitat thing. However, when you're trying to turn a trailer around with the tractor, you're like, oh, that's in the way. So these little ones, sometimes I just nip them off if I'm working in that area, because it just makes my life a little bit easier. I'll show you this. That there is sweet chestnut, another one of my favourite trees. I love the colour on that. It's looking stunning. I don't know whether I've ever explained this area. This area was all sweet chestnut. And when we first got the woodland, this was, and I really am not exaggerating, I would say it was probably between 10 and 12 foot high in bramble. You couldn't see anything. So these pines, you could see the tops, but you couldn't see any of the bottoms. So I flailed and brush cut and flailed and got it all right down to a manageable level, and then discovered this area of chestnut that had basically failed, and they've not done very well up here. I did describe to you the other day that this area just, there's something about the ground that it doesn't like, and that's really why I continue to keep knocking the brambles back, because otherwise if I don't, we'll end up in that same scenario with 10 to 12 foot high brambles, dead trees underneath. I guess if you've got no other means to do it, and doing it doesn't seem to helping anyway, I understand then why you might not do the brambles and you will just leave it as habitat. But for me, on such a small acreage, I'm trying to get as much productivity of the woodland as I can, but at the same time, I've just walked through a cobweb. At the same time, try and help the wildlife to enjoy the woodland as their home as well. I find that difficult sometimes, trying to strike the balance right. Not some crazy chainsaw loony chopping everything down and creating this nude woodland that hasn't got any understory or areas for little critters to live. Got down to the Willow, managed to cut a little bit of an access track through so that I can get the tractor and trailer in, because that's the biggest challenge with this slot, is how on earth to get it out. I've probably got 3 stalls done, I think, because all the stalls have got at least 3 and 4 stems on, like these, but I've got maybe probably about another 8 to 10 to do. Some big trees actually. Pretty big willow that is. I was actually hoping to have got all this done today, but not a chance. The light is now failing on me, so it's going to have to be more tomorrow. See you in the morning for more willow cutting, whatever else drama happens. Morning. It's supposed to be raining this morning, but we've got blue skies, wind, sunshine. Not complaining about that. Every now and again I talk about mental health percentages. Out of 100, where you're at today. Anyway, last couple of days, in fact the last week or two, I've been bumbling along, in my mind, at around about 50 to 60%. Don't know why particularly, some changes that happened recently, a few things playing on my mind and all that. It's not a very nice feeling, can't do much about it. You can't sort of fix it anyway. It means I end up wasting time. I'm not very productive when I'm like that. I end up scrolling, pointless, endless waste of time scrolling. I'm just trying to break myself out of the loop this morning. Messing with my phone to try and set it so that it doesn't pull me in, suck me in, to the point where I'm even toying with deleting some apps because it's getting a bit ridiculous. I can't fix your problems either, but it's just good to just express, if you're not 100%, you're not feeling right, tell me what your percentage is, and just know that we not always have these great Instagram perfect days. They're not always like that. The other thing I discovered recently, through probably my mindless scrolling, is I discovered that you can change the speed on video watching. I'm like, this is fantastic. So I can watch certain videos at 2 times speed, and it means that the video is half the time. I can just about work out what's been said, but more often than not, I get the gist of the video from 2 times speed. Now, I look at that also from an editing point of view, is for me as a video maker, I think, why would anybody want to watch my videos at 2 times speed? No, I've got no control over that. I try and make the videos so that they're designed to be watched at 1 time speed, but I understand that your time's rather valuable as well. So if it means that you have to watch the videos at 2 times speed, I don't mind. It's just one of them. Anyway, I thought that was rather awesome. 1.5 times speed is quite a good mix. It messes with the music. Music don't sound right at all. But the voice parts at 1.5 times speed, that's manageable. Which means you can always go and watch another one of my videos. There you go. That's cheered you up, hasn't it? That's it. We're out of fuel. That means it's the end of my day. I am sweating here today. It's incredibly mild today. Well, that's made an absolute mess. Look at the state of that brash pile. Beautiful colours though. Look at the golden silver birch in the background, which is them tops there. And even these willow, what's left of them, lovely yellow colours. Just noticed out there, cherry, larch tops there, look. I'm 2 stems away from being finished here, which is pretty typical. That is a lot of work. I can't believe how many stems there was. There might have only been about 15 to 20 trees, but each tree had got, or each stall had got 3 to 4 stems on it, which is about another, almost like another 30 to 40 trees. I didn't really anticipate quite that much wood. That one there's dead. And then the only other one I want to try and get down if I can is that multi-stem brute right in the middle there, because it's just shading all the oaks out. So we'll have that one down as well. So I reckon it wouldn't even take a tank full. About another hour I'd have them done. So we'll leave that till next week. I'll see you whichever day it is next when I'm back up here. Good morning. That'll be it. Looks like I've got to finish off one stem from last week, get that cross cut, and that hopefully will be our felling done for this winter, as in felling and thinning bigger trees. We've still got all of the hazel to sort yet. More on that another day. So much for the rain holding off until the end of the day. It's been raining for about an hour already. We've got the willow done, we've got that willow done, and then you may not be able to tell, but just about there is an old dogwood. I don't really like dogwood that much. I mean, it's not as bad as bramble or goat willow, but I still don't like dogwood. And I certainly don't want it growing there, because they grow and they sucker and they layer and they just end up a thicket, and I don't like thickets. I don't know what it is about it. For some reason it just, this impenetrable layer does me nothing. That's this corner done anyway. I'm going to sit in the van for a few minutes, just get out the rain for a second. It's fairly typical. Just when I want to start extracting and not cause a mess, we get loads and loads of rain. I don't like working in the rain particularly. If I had a choice, I'd be in the workshop right now rather than getting soaking wet. But somehow when the deadlines are on you, you have to get soaking wet. Don't like it. It's still raining. just had a quick catch up with Jeff. I'm at his woodland in Rosliston and doing a quick assessment of what the hazel's like for cutting this winter, and I've got an order for some poles and I need to find out. Wow, they've grown well. Talk about that in a minute. I need to find out how many of these poles I can get out and then email them to tell them, give them an update. This is hazel I cut, I think, let me think, that's a good question actually. I think it was 6 years ago, but I can't remember now. Might need to check. This is hazel here, and actually some of that is better than I thought, the way it's come back. I know we're on the edges here. Over the far side I don't think it was quite so well, but some of this is doing really well. And I was debating whether to cut this or not this winter. Some of these ash are going overlook. The ash dieback is affecting the root systems, and basically the roots just rot off and the trees just fall over. And I'm looking for poles sort of a bit like that and bigger, about that 2 inch, fairly straight like that one there, so 2 inch, between 6 and 8 foot long, and they'll be used for den poles. Things like this gnarly horrible thing, that's no good to me at all. That's just charcoal or firewood. But on a stool like that, I might get 4 out of it. Let's say 5. So if I look for stools like that, okay. So I'm going to have a quick mental count up, and I'll let you know where we're at when I've had a proper maths lesson. Cut that this time last year, around about January. So yeah, last winter. So that's done right. Some of that is nearly 7 foot tall. And then this side is what I cut. Huge area at the same time, January, February this year. I know I get distracted easily, but the acorns, look at them, they're like apples. Oh, that's amazing. Let's take a couple of giant acorns home with me. Look at them babies. Fantastic. I know, sorry, I got completely distracted then. So these have come back really well. Not quite as tall and not quite as thick as the open areas, but I'm glad they've come back, because last year we had an awful lot of muntjac damage, and that was in this side. So some of these stools were barely 4 inches high because the muntjac had an absolute field day. And we also had a really wet winter, which I do think the wet winter had stunted them, and then the muntjac sort of finished them off. So me, Paddy and Karen on that side did a load of brashing. So you can see possibly just in front of my fingers, the stool on the edges got a bit of brash around the stool. That has helped keep the muntjac off. And I did the same for this side, just any old bits of branches like this, look, try and stop them from pushing into it and keeping the muntjac from browsing. And I do believe that it has helped, I really do. As you look through, you've got the brash piles, which is the black, and then you've got the green layer that runs through, and most of that and some of that yellow is all hazel that's all regrown. I would say, because of the browsing, that side is about the same as that side, but I'm not too worried about that. Right, I think we're getting somewhere now. Apart from getting soaking wet, I do think we're getting some numbers in. I've had a quick count up on how many stools we've got, and so far I've counted up around about 100 stools of hazel that is maiden cut, never been cut before. If it has, it's only been cut once, and that's a long time ago. Each one of those I've basically guesstimated at having five of those den making poles per stool. So we've got, ooh, it's wet down here. Let's take a shortcut this way. I'm getting soaked today. And most of this is firewood. Look at it, it's massive. That's how big that is. It's about 4 to 5 inches round, some of that. Okay, we've got
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, miss that one, 18, 19, 20, 21, up to Daisy, 22.
Around and about 22 stalls there. We've got about 130 stalls now to do. Let me see if I can get out of this without getting wrapped in bramble. And 130 stalls, if I can cut 10 stalls a day, which is about my average, I can do a bit more than that if it's a good day. 10 stalls a day, 130 stalls, that's 13 days, which means we could possibly have, let me dive the cover out of here, look, oh, sorry, got a sparrow in here, oh no, it's a robin. We could have all of that done maybe for the end of the year. I'm going to go home now. Well, I'm not actually. I'm going to go back up to our woodland and do some more up there. But I'm going to leave Rosliston because I am soaked. My knees are soaked, my hands are froze. It's horrible weather. Tilt tray bagger fully assembled. I'm still getting used to the technique with the net sacks, but it's still a whole lot less frustrating than trying to stuff them in by hand. Interesting little contraption. If you've never seen one before, you slide a net over the end up to about there somewhere. You load your logs in from there down, get to for me about here somewhere, push them into the net sack, and then as you're doing that you sort of tilt it down as well so it loads it, and then just a little tie top at the top. I did wonder about putting some kindling in the top of the bag as like a complete fire kit. My other option was to wrap up a few pieces of kindling into a little bundle with some sisal around it, and then whenever I do sell bags is to give them the kindling along with it. Good morning. We've had a bit of a sticky start this morning. Things not quite going to plan. Last night I checked the weather report and it said that today would be torrential rain all day. And I thought, right, I'm going to have to change my plans. So I've got all these new plans based on how torrential the rain might be, what might get achieved, because today was meant to be a tractor day. Did the school run, come back, stop raining. Check the weather report. Looks like it's going to be relatively dry all day now, even a touch of sunshine this afternoon. So I thought, right, let's get the tractor out. And it just suddenly dawned on me that the battery on the tractor isn't that great. So I goes out, try to start it, of course it's flat as a pancake. And also what I didn't realise is when I did the fuel filter in the summer, I'd forgotten to start it and prime the fuel filter. So of course there was no fuel in the filter. So now it's about, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock. Feels like half the day's gone. However, to not use what's left of today, I will feel even more regret. I'm sure you didn't want to know any of that. It made no difference to your day whatsoever. And all it's doing is delaying me on my day. So I'll give you a little plan of what's going on. This is some log splitting that we did in the summer months. That cage there, that cage there, that cage there, that cage there have all got to be moved. We may have to just move these logs out of the way so I can just get the tractor around here. Then once these are out of the way, you see, I need to create a clear space in this area because all of the felling I've done so far this winter has got to go in there ready for stacking up for 18 months time, ready for splitting. We'll move that as well while we're at it. I normally have my little clip-on mic, and I've gone and lost that as well now. It's just a really bad day. I should have just stayed in bed. More haste, less speed. We've managed 1 or 2 jobs this afternoon. We've moved that one, got all the slab wood off ready for firewood for next year. That's last year's sticks, they've got to be branch logged. We've moved firewood for my sister so it's more accessible. We've had a charcoal burn as well. We've moved the larch poles over to there just because they're out of my way at the moment. I need to be able to get in from that direction, down here, round here and round to this so I can offload all the firewood that is currently over there and then out through the exit route, back round again, round the log store, back round again for another load. But I'm going to go before it gets dark. I figured out that the rest of this week is nothing to do with woodlands, so it's all pretty boring really. So I've got a feeling it's going to be next week before I see you again, and in my mind I know what I'm doing, but who knows what reality will bring. So I'll see you next week. Good afternoon. Little sneaky nip up the woodland today. Been on a gardening job all day, and yesterday we had rain. Good grief, it was raining. And then tomorrow the forecast, got cobweb in my face, forecast even more rain tomorrow. I just wanted to get that ready for the next time I'm charcoaling. Okay, we'll see what tomorrow brings with the weather, and I think it'll be next Monday when I'll see you again. Good morning. What an absolute stunner of a day it is compared to last week when it just rained and rained. I lost so many days last week. It was a bit of a disaster. I got myself a new retro helmet, so I just thought, you know what, for the sake of safety, Ellery actually dared me to wear it, and I don't mind. Get the branch logger out, do a whole load of branch logging. That's, I think, going to be the main part of the day. Well, that was a bit of a sprint. this afternoon. There was a certain amount I wanted to try and get done. That cage there. That's the 2 we did this morning. This great big stillage is stuff that was all backed up back of my weaving deck, and then all of the offcuts that were no good from hurdling, and then all of what was left over in the log trailer is all now in there. Ignore that sort of bit there, because you don't need to see debris. Just up and through there, it's too dark to see. There is another great big pile of willow and pine, because I had a couple of trees out just down here. Good morning. It's just a bit cold this morning. A stunningly beautiful morning, -3. That means it's extraction day, which is perfect for extraction. It does just mean that it takes it out of your fingers. It's pain, like. Anyway, we have some hired help coming to come and give me a chuck this today. In fact, I don't know how much filming I'll do, because when I'm with somebody it's always a bit awkward. With my first technical problem, I've got to be able to get round from that direction, round here, past this IBC, and then round there. Only we can't get past the tin sheets and past that, so when Brad comes we're going to have to move that IBC. I am rapidly losing the light here. We've even got birds going to roost in a minute. We've managed to get all of the ash out, we've managed to get all of the pine out, and then you might just be able to see if the light's any good. There's the pile of goat willow down there, and I think there's got to be maybe 4 loads down there.
So we've had, I think, 5 loads of ash out, we've had 2 loads of pine out, we've got this load, it won't be a full load, but it'll be okay. So how many was that? 5 and 2, that's 7. This will be 8 loads, and then another 4 down there at least.
About 12 trailers full from around about, round figures, probably 100 trees. That's a bit of the stats anyway. Fingers are going cold again. We're starting to get a little bit of a cold night. I think maybe 0 again tonight. So that is the end of another woodlog for this week. I've sort of lost track of where I am, what I've said, who I've said it to, and what the date is. But today's Friday, it's time to go home. I'll see you on the next woodlog. Thanks ever so much for watching this one. If you're able to, try and do what you can to make the woodlands a better place and a bit more in management. And if not, just enjoy a little bit of the autumn and winter in the woodlands. See you next time.